Episode 4, the final episode of our WrestleMania season series. Carl Coulange alongside Mr. No Days Off. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. 4 weeks, so it's almost Mania time.
Yeah, it is. So let me say the last episode for this season 1 of WrestleMania season, because we may bring it back for next year, has to be about the matches. The matches kind of make the card. You always want to look up the card, what's going to be. Nowadays, you kind of see what the build is going to be, who's going to main event. You kind of get a feeling of it. Spoilers for your generation kind of knows. You guys start reading about it in November, and you start sending me text messages. I go, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the spoilers. Get me be surprised. So overall, before we start diving into some specific matches, why are the matches so important? I mean, clearly that's what we're here to see, the matches. But do the matches define WrestleMania?
I think it all boils down to one. The matches become almost a bigger deal because they're at WrestleMania, and nowadays we see them on such a much bigger scale and more of a mainstream scale, that if you got a match in WrestleMania, you got eyes that stretch further than just wrestling fans. You got people that are just casuals that might want to see the main event, but they'll tune in an hour earlier and see your match and be like, oh, I kind of like this guy. Oh, I like this guy too. Man, it's actually pretty cool. So I think that if you have a match on WrestleMania, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think the matches basically, the length of the matches now, normal WWE match is kind of like, it should go like 15, 20 minutes, right, give or take. But you'll get some good ones, some good crowds, some good kickouts for some classic ones at WrestleMania. So that being said, you want to run to a list of some of your classics, some of your favorite, which one, we could even debate which one is the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to open that can of worms.
There's a lot of candidates, but what match stands out? Like I'm having a WrestleMania debate with your conversation. First match that you think of, right off the top of your head, without even looking.
So it's got to be one of the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels matches. Everyone always asks me, oh, which one is the best? I can't decide. I mean, I if I had to, like, gun to my head, I'd say 26. But
I disagree. Even I was at 26. 26, the building was on fire. It was literally one of the greatest ones. But the first one, 25. Was better than I don't know if it's because it was the first. The first is always, I feel like the first, and they did a great follow-up. I think it's like A minus, like 1A, 1B.
It's almost not even worth debating which one is better because they're just so good.
They're good, but I think the first one was like, and the mistake they made, the reason why the mistake that they made in the first one, that it wasn't the main event. They followed up with Triple H and Orton, which kind of killed the whole move.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like there was no way Triple H and Orton were gonna be able to follow up, because that was the main event between the McMahons and Orton, but they stole the show.
But they made right, because I believe the main event of 26 was
Taker, they made it right.
Shawn,
yeah. So for me, what stands out as choosing a WrestleMania match, I gotta go TLC 17. I think there's so many classic matches that I can think of, but the first one that I can think of, because I think that's the best WrestleMania booking wise, 17 with Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian. Those guys knew how to steal a show. And for me, for those who may not have seen that WrestleMania, go back on Peacock, WWE Network, whatever streaming platform, on YouTube. Go look up that match. That match, to me, is what puts WrestleMania in my mind, for me. That's the greatest WrestleMania.
It's one of those. It's a good example of knowing your moment and going out and taking it. And those guys said, I don't care what else. I don't care that we're going to be followed up by The Rock versus Stone Cold. We're taking this show, and they did. And it's talked about to this day.
Oh, that match is just like, and they had their battles at SummerSlam, at regular other pay-per-views, No Mercy, that kind of led up to, I think this was probably the final one that they actually had.
And the thing about that match that's good is there's so many guys, so much stuff going on, but nobody stepped over anybody else's moment.
Not at all.
Every pair had their big moment. You had the spear between, Edge spearing Hardy off the ladder. Every guy had his own big moment in that match. So.
Any other matches that you'd say stand out that kind of is in your greatest WrestleMania matches of all time archive?
It's going to be debated because it's a very controversial guy, but I'll say CM Punk versus Undertaker from Mania 29. And like you said about, I mean, that should have main evented that show. I don't care what anybody says.
What?
You don't appreciate CM Punk versus Taker? The storyline that. Carl.
The storyline was great. I'm not going to lie, because Paul Bearer had just passed away, right? And the whole urn thing.
And they used the urn in the story.
But you're not going to put that over Rock versus Cena. You're not going to do that. There's no way.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I mean,
You just said it was going to be your main event.
It should have been, yeah.
But that means it'd go over Roxana. You're not doing that.
I mean, I know they wouldn't. I would have because the second year around, nobody cared about Roxana again.
You CM Punk fans make me.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm talking to a CM Punk hater.
I'm not
here.
a CM Punk hater. I love the guy, but and this is the problem we have as like because CM Punk has put in our minds that he didn't get the WrestleMania main event. Now we come out here and start saying that he should have been in the main event against the Undertaker.
I mean, it was the best match on that show.
Listen,
it's not saying much. It was that wasn't a great. She wasn't a great.
That card wasn't as great as you thought it was. But clearly, I guess if you want to put that as your main event, but out of all WrestleMania matches to stand out to me, I think you need to do some more research because there's a lot more.
I mean, the 5 Ps.
Listen,
I come prepared. I got my couple.
What else you got on your list? Because I'm curious to see.
It seems to be a pretty common thread with the Undertaker, Mr. WrestleMania. So this one.
You know what? That's the second time in this series you said that. I'm going to check you in a few minutes. Finish your list.
So Edge versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 24, that main event for the World Heavyweight title. Again, I'm a big story guy. I love matches that have a good story behind it, and that definitely had a great story leading into it. The match was amazing. Then, again, another storyline, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Batista. The match itself might have not been the best mat wrestling match, but the moment and the story.
That was 14, right?
That was
Daniel Bryan.
That was 2014 WrestleMania 30.
Listen, I'm going to educate you because Undertaker is not Mr. WrestleMania. He's Mr. WrestleMania B. You could put him in the B category under Shawn Michaels. Let me educate you real quick, youngin. Let me educate. Shawn Michaels in WrestleMania 12 against Bret Hart in the first ever Iron Man match. You got Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold in 1998. You have Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho, an AEW guy, WrestleMania 19, Seiko Field. That's all Shawn. Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, WrestleMania 2007. Shawn Michaels retires Ric Flair. Shawn Michaels goes back-to-back with The Undertaker. You can't possibly sit here and tell me and try to breathe in me. Oh, you forgot. Shawn Michaels in a triple threat match with Triple H and the people that we don't like to talk about, but he could be mentioned on my platform, Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20. Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle. What are we doing here? Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania. The man that makes losing look good. I'm not done yet because you tried to disrespect Shawn. The man that makes losing look good. Shawn Michaels is the main event of Star of Stars. He is Mr. WrestleMania, period.
Are you done?
I'm done. Sorry, I had to get that out.
I mean, I think I just gave you some more content for the hit list. I think this could be a series debating who's Mr. WrestleMania.
It's Shawn. Like, people want to understand, and I think this is part of the problem in the hit list streets is that people want to try to dispel my theory that he's the greatest of all. It's Shawn Michaels. We have to stop. Please, we have to stop.
Again, it's a generational thing. Right? I came into WrestleMania 25 was my first one I ever bought and watched live. That was his first year against Taker, second year against Taker, and then 27 he was done. He didn't have a match on 27.
No, yeah, because he retired. Yeah, right.
So I never watched. I mean, I can go back on Peacock and watch all his matches. Yeah, I can appreciate him. I like Shawn Michaels, but for me personally, growing up, it was Taker, Edge, Taker, Triple H twice, Taker, Shawn twice. Obviously Taker, Punk. I mean.
Listen, Taker had his classics. I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't, but I guess you're right. It's a generational thing. For me, it was Shawn was never in the main event, but he always put on the main event, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
he was never there. He was never in every single main event, and he missed a couple. He missed, I think, 4 because he got hurt after the year against Stone Cold. So he missed 15, he missed 16, he missed 17, and he missed 18, and he was back for 19, right? Yeah, the 1 year that was a complete abysmal was when he faced Vince. And he even tried to put on a show in that one, right? So I think Shawn is Mr. WrestleMania when it comes to matches. There are other classic matches that we can talk about. I know people who want to take years back. You have Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man WrestleMania 3. That arguably is the greatest. Yeah. The greatest match. Like, aside from us and you're not even watching it, that everyone knows is one of the that stole the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's like the further back you go, you have those icons that we don't really have today. I mean, we have icons, but not like the Macho Man's, the Warriors, the Hogans, guys like that.
You could even take it back to that WrestleMania where it's I don't think it was a great match, but it was a moment which we didn't really talk about moments. Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant, like everyone, like you see that on replay.
They'll be pumping that until the sun burns out.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
that's classic for sure.
I got a question though. So we're talking about classic matches with Taker and Shawn. What's your biggest underrated WrestleMania match? Like guys that aren't maybe main eventers or not the biggest guys. 'Cause I got one in my head from very, very recently.
That's a great question.
Do you want me to start while you think?
They're giving us the rapper signal, but you can go ahead. I got to think about that.
So WrestleMania 34. As much as I don't think it was that great of a show, the opener between Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, and The Miz
That was a good
might have
match.
been one of the best openers to a Mania in a very long time because it got that crowd going, hot. It set the mood for the night.
I'm gonna. People may not remember this one, right? Or they may not put this in their classic WrestleMania matches. For me, it's got to be Kofi winning the championship at
35.
At 35.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that one
That
because
moment.
That moment, like I literally like talking about it. I want to get into tears. Like I'm a crybaby at heart, right? So just seeing Kofi extend his arms like this, and then his family's there, and you see Byron Saxton clapping. It's just finally a guy after 10 years. A man of color at that, just being, because we know WWE, and I can go on a tangent about the lack of honoring black champions, but just having him there and he gets the moment, and Daniel Bryan being a good sport about getting him over, that's a match I think is underrated that we don't talk about enough. In my opinion.
Yeah, that moment being, I was there at 35 when that happened, and just being in that stadium for that moment, like you said, I saw people crying around me, and I can't think of another time I was at a wrestling show where people were actively crying around me because of the moment out of pure joy.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, thank you for joining me on all 4 episodes. I think next year we might have started something where we might want to do it for every major pay-per-view. I think our creative minds are coming together. So thank you to all the fans for watching this special series on WrestleMania season. Look out for more Sports Hitless content. Check out Nick on AEW Injection Wednesday nights live on Facebook and on Twitch. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We're all over social media platforms. Thank you for all the love and support. And enjoy WrestleMania and WrestleMania season.